Our first speaker, who met Alissa in Wichita, Kansas in the 80s when they were both staff reporters for the Wichita Eagle Beacon. And she went on to become one of the paper's lead project reporters. Today she lives in San Francisco, where she's quite an accomplished science writer and the author most recently of Plastic, a Toxic Love Story. She's also a graduate of the Columbia Journalism School. So please join me in welcoming back Susan Freinkel.
Well, I thank you so much for letting me be here and be part of this evening, because I'm so proud of Alissa. I met Alissa, as Steve said, during her first exotic posting in Wichita, Kansas. We both worked then at what was then called the Wichita Eagle Beacon. Wichita at that time was a weirdly isolated place. It was 3 hours from any major city, and so removed from outside influence that it was actually used as a test market for new products. You could only get the New York Times one day a week for 20 minutes at one store, and then the window was closed. Bagels, forget it. For a native New Yorker, it was probably as strange and foreign a place as she'd ever been till that point. Alissa wasn't the only East Coast expat working at the paper, but while many of the other ones there were kind of snobby and treated Kansas like a hardship posting, Alissa arrived with a curious and open mind, and she maintained that outlook for the 4 years that she was there. She was eager to understand what life in Kansas was like and to try it on for size, which was kind of a learning curve for a girl raised on the Upper West Side. It meant buying a car and learning to drive. Not very well, I should say. Nobody really wanted to ride shotgun with her. It meant growing an amazing garden, and the secret ingredient was 100 cubic feet of virgin soil that she had a colleague bring her from western Kansas. It meant decorating her house with local touches like the most beautiful bundles of cut wheat you have ever seen. Alissa started out on the neighborhood news beat, but quickly moved up to covering the county commission and then the state legislature. She quickly figured out how to cultivate sources. She used to bring fresh-baked cookies to the secretaries and office workers in the county commission office. It was a smart way to establish a beat, but I also always think about it because it reflected one of the things about Alissa that I've always admired in her reporting, which is her respect for the intelligence and perspective of ordinary people. You all probably know that Alissa can be sort of soft-spoken and unassuming, and I think a lot of people took that manner to mean that she probably would get eaten by the politicians she was covering. But she was never afraid or unwilling to stand up to people in power. She heard that one of the county commissioners was hiring unqualified friends or relatives and started looking into what turned out to be a real problem with nepotism. One day, she went out to her car, parked in the official county parking lot, and found that all the windows in the car had been broken. She tried talking about it with the police officer who was stationed there to watch the parking lot, and he just shrugged his shoulders and said, "No, I didn't see anything." Alissa continued, covering the story undeterred. You could see then that she would be an indefatigable reporter. When the state was revamping its system of property tax reappraisals, Alissa threw herself into mastering every detail, every mind-numbing detail of the law. She became such an expert that she wrote a guide for homeowners who wanted to appeal their house's reappraisal. The paper decided to offer the booklet for sale and sold so many copies that they actually made more money than her entire annual salary. I asked some friends from the paper when I was preparing for this what they remembered from that time, and one reminded me how once while she was out on a story, Alissa got a speeding ticket for doing 95 miles per hour on a rural Kansas highway. You know, you would never have even thought that this beat-up old Ford Escort could go that fast. But we both thought it was kind of the perfect metaphor for her, because as he pointed out, as unaggressive and humble as she may seem, she's always been ferocious about getting her story. Thank you.